side. He's shaking his head. He's accompanied by quite a few people there.
Hi, my name is Bill Neff. The Elvis concert was just a tremendous shot of luck at that time. It happened in 1961 or I think 1961 is when it was. And I happened to be just to come off an operation at Triple Army Hospital. And the reason for the operation was I had screwed my knee up and they took some cartilage out of it. So I was there, and back in them days, you could spend more than a couple days in the hospital. You didn't have to worry. It was a military hospital, so I didn't have to worry about insurance or anything. So the one day I was there, and it was probably the second or third day I came out of the operation. A nurse came around, and she asked me if I'd like to attend a concert. And I said, well, what concert? She says, well, Elvis is coming to do a concert to raise money for the building of the Arizona Memorial. So I said, sure, why not? You know, it was, I wasn't doing much in the hospital, so it sounded like a good idea. But anyway, at that time, Elvis picked up, I found out he had spent $5,000 of his own money to buy 50 tickets to give to the hospital. So I couldn't believe that I was lucky enough to get one. I think it was random. They just came around, and some of the ward they came to, some of the people couldn't get up. You know, they had a hard time maneuvering. But and I knew of him at that point, and I said, sure, anything to get me out of the hospital here. You know? They took me down to it was held at Black Arena. But the arena wasn't that big. It held about 4,000 people, and it was packed. I got there, and they ushered me down to the front row, and I sat between two admirals, and it was a real sympathy pitch because I went down on crutches, you know, and it was just one of those things, you know. But when the show started, the first half of the show was he brought down, he didn't just come down by himself. He brought the entire Grand Ole Opry with him. And the headline, the first act was Minnie Pearl, you know. And then he had Floyd Kramer, the Boots Randolph, stars that he appeared with at one time or another, you know. And the first half of the show lasted about an hour and a half, and then took a break. Second half of the show was all him.
Our honored guest tonight is a fine American. He has had many starring roles. In one of these roles, his role as a soldier in the U.S. Army, his performance was outstanding. And it's a great pleasure to welcome him here and to present to you Elvis Presley.
And he sang every song that he ever recorded up to that point. And he never took a break, and he was sweating by the time he was done. I mean, he was. And I remember he got, I don't know, he got standing O's and stuff like that, you know. Back then, they weren't that big on standing ovations and stuff like that, but I know he was well received by, I don't think people, you gotta remember people, they were admirals and stuff, so they were an older crowd, you know. But the young people sure appreciated him, and I think even the older people did too. They realized how hard he worked, and they gave it the golf clap. You know, you gained a lot of respect for the guy because he was doing this to raise money for the memorial. So he wasn't making any money on this deal. You know, it was strictly charity. So since that time, I've always had a lot of respect for him. You know, and anybody that doesn't, you don't realize how good a guy he was.
Ladies and gentlemen, for just a moment, I would like to inject a rather serious note into this gathering. Because after all, what Elvis is doing here is for a very great cause. And so I speak very briefly, but to the point, on behalf of the 1,177 men who are entombed in the Arizona. And on their behalf, and on behalf of the Pacific War Memorial Commission, we want to thank all who have played such a very important part in this program to be held tonight. Now, Elvis, we have 3 items that we want to present to you. First of all, here's an honor certificate signed by Admiral Nimitz expressing appreciation to you for what you are doing tonight. Then there's a second certificate from the Pacific War Memorial Commission for asking that you serve as an honorary member of that group. And lastly, Elvis, we have a plaque. The folks here will recognize this as the outline of the coat of arms of Hawaii. I will read it. USS Arizona Memorial. Ward of Honor, Elvis Presley. Pacific War Memorial Commission, March 25th, 1961, Pearl Harbor, Hawaii. So we present these to you, sir, and with these go our sincere, most sincere appreciation.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
The Arizona War Memorial benefit show that you did.
Oh, yeah.
And even though a lot of them couldn't come over here, a lot of them did send donations in on your behalf.
That's terrific. I really appreciate it, really. And for the ones that didn't make it down to our show, well, maybe we'll be coming back over sometime in the future.
Were you happy with the turnout and the response in the show and everything?
Oh, yeah, I sure was. And I was glad everybody was yelling and everything to cover up my mistakes because I hadn't had any rehearsals, you know, and I've been out of practice and hadn't been on stage since 1957.
Yeah, man, that's a long time.
And
the
band had forgotten the song. I'd forgotten the lyrics to most of the song. Mm-hmm. In fact, a lot of times I said the same lyrics over and over and over. Used the same line.